The Volkswagen, outward bound to the highways of the world. I'm Chet Huntley, and this is the story behind Volkswagen, a household word in 100 languages, the car that built a company and changed an industry.
Wolfsburg 221. This is Volkswagen. Just a moment, I'll connect you.
This plant and headquarters at Wolfsburg in West Germany is a mile long. It is one of 4 plants where 54,000 people make more than 4,000 vehicles a day. The building is the company. The 54,000 people are the company. The investment of $375 million is the company. Above all, the customer is the company. In every climate, on every continent, of every culture and language. Because the money came from sales, all $375 million of it. And the sales came from the buyer's acceptance of what was then a new idea. In any modern industry, the impressive tools of mass production are an expression in steel and power of the belief that enough need exists for the end product so that each unit can pay a little towards the building, a little to buy the big press, enough to pay the working man his fair share, enough to demand and at the same time provide for expansion and improvement. For Volkswagen, the belief had to be even stronger, because it also included the principle that the highest craftsmanship could be applied to an automobile made to sell at a low price, that meticulous care was not a luxury item. What you see is what made the idea a success and what resulted from that success. Volkswagen has become the world's largest user of magnesium, much of which comes from America. A metal whose great advantages can be worked into a car only through the most delicate processes. But a magnesium alloy engine was part of the idea, and by refusing to compromise, the designers forced the science of metallurgy to catch up with them. The success of the idea has forced its own progress. Today, a specially designed merry-go-round of spot welders makes some of the more than 10,000 perfect welds almost simultaneously to achieve levels of safety and durability higher than old machines could attain or buyers pay for. But an idea worth having is worth being stubborn about. In a free market, success is rarely an accident. An automobile is a complex machine with many parts and many participants. If it is built around the idea of high quality at an acceptable price, the quality must be consistently maintained in even the smallest part. And the concept of workmanship must be shared in by everyone whose hand is turned to any component. There are no lesser parts and no unimportant people. And it is part of the idea to convince all, like these workers at the Braunschweig parts manufacturing plant, not far from Volkswagen's Wolfsburg headquarters, that each task is equally important and demanding. On how precisely these engine valves are engineered, how carefully they are turned out, whether the metal shop has brought them to just the right degree of hardness, will depend the performance of an automobile in some distant country. Some motorist, no worker here will ever know, depends on the quality of the work done here. An axle bearing can be no less important than an engine block. It is not enough when most of the car is reliable. All the men, and all the machinery and all the investment must hang on each part and how it is joined to the whole machine. So, the great stress on inspection, the step which accepts or rejects, which agrees or disagrees at every stage, whether the idea is being met. Out of 54,000 workers, 2,500 are inspectors, 1 out of every 7 production workers. An inspection is part of every step in the manufacturing process. The buyer can see the coat of paint and the upholstery. For the rest, he relies on the inspectors. Quality at the lowest possible price to the buyer means there are no favored suppliers. The free market operates to choose among a wide world of raw materials and services. From the United States alone, Volkswagen buys coal and computers, elaborate machines and raw metals. Every morning's mail reflects the health of that part of the world that trades freely. Slowly, the pieces of the idea come together. The bright work must endure sleet or desert sand, jungle wet or salt air. The body takes on color by a revolutionary method of painting electrostatically. After picking up a base coat in a dipping tank, the body uses an electric charge to attract the paint in a microscopically fine, precisely even fog. 3 such coats make the finish, each mathematically exact. Each, again, minutely and critically inspected. By a strange process, the inspector represents the buyer, who will never meet him and who at this moment does not yet know his car exists. The original idea was best expressed in the Volkswagen engine, which has written an international record with its capacity to perform near its peak power output for long periods. The air-cooled engine is uniquely light, with resulting high ratio of horsepower to weight, freedom from corrosion and the need to service radiators twice yearly, uniform engine temperature, and all the advantages of clean, simple, logical design. Using magnesium alloy increases all these advantages, but dictates great precision in manufacture. The ever-present inspector with his green badge ensures fidelity to the original conception. Since the beginning of manufacture, 1,600 engineering changes have been incorporated into the Volkswagen. In the coming years, there will be more, each tried out to the limit of human ingenuity, subjected to problems only the rare unit will in fact be asked to meet. If the idea is constant, its application necessarily moves forward. The moment of satisfaction is the moment of danger. engineers and technicians speed along the process of growth and renewal. The assembly line of today's cars, not far away from them in this same plant, is for them only an assembly of challenges. And as each change evolves, they must work it smoothly into present manufacture without disrupting or retooling or slowing down. This is the anatomy of a change. Once it has been decided on, there is the design and then the testing of new machines. The careful process which starts with blueprints and ends with new stages in the manufacture itself. Besides the machines, there must be the men, often young men perhaps just out of high school, 400 of them a year. Training to man the new machines takes a minimum of 3 years, and all the new machines and the men and the training must adhere to the original idea. The factory power plant sheds, if you please, a new light. It powers not only the factory with its vast assembly of production machines, but the city itself, Wolfsburg, where it lights the streets and warms the houses and presses the shirts and cools the food of the employees in their private and individual homes. There is an interdependence here between town and factory which is unusual, but the idea depends on the people as much as on the machines, and here is where the people live. The idea must succeed in their houses and churches and hospitals and playgrounds. Here in Hanover, 50 miles from Wolfsburg, an additional $250,000 is being invested this year. The surveyor's transit and the heavy-duty crane are almost synonymous with the blue and white VW trademark. And so the idea moves forward in this plant that makes engines, trucks, and station wagons, 120,000 units a year. One basic chassis used around the world in as many forms and applications as imagination can devise. Station wagons, buses, panel trucks, pickup trucks, even fire engines, ambulances, and mobile display units. As the idea spreads, it involves, it seems, as much construction as automobiles. $23 million in Hanover, $33 million back in Wolfsburg, where the idea started, $10 million here in Kassel, where transmissions and spare parts are made, and other millions elsewhere around the world. $3 million in the United States just for office buildings. Altogether around the world, there are now 14 Volkswagen facilities for production, assembly, and administration. Personnel has doubled in recent years, and the excitement of growth does not seem to let up. It is now more than a dozen years that the company has been unable to keep up with demand. The idea, which was so simple to express, is achieved and maintained in all the complexities of modern production. in the involvement of the people who attend it, in the advanced techniques, and in the old personal skills. A car, or a truck, or a station wagon is, after all, a practical thing, not a philosophical thing. Perhaps it should not stimulate as much excitement as it has. But the free market is as strong as the reliability of those who trade in it, as the trust the buyer can put in the promises of the seller, as the responsibility each man and each woman along the line feels in the finally completed product. And each automobile which leaves must be as solid and well-made and dependable as those which went out before. The construction, the performance, the finish, the details must be checked on each car before it can be allowed off the property. Inspection is not a check on manufacture, it is a part of manufacture. Each automobile is not considered built until it is tried, all its parts and the whole. Stressed beyond needed limits, it must prove and reprove soundness and reliability in every respect. Only now is the making of the car completed. This, then, has been the story behind Volkswagen, the name which is a household word in 100 languages. The car that built a company and changed an industry. In the beginning, money was scarce, and it was not much of a plant. But from the start, the car was built well and reliably, and was sold and serviced honestly and fairly. The idea which started it, high quality at an acceptable price, was present at the beginning as it is now. Because it has never been compromised, it has brought success in jobs, in new plant and machines, in a full and satisfying life for those who built the car, and those who sell and service it everywhere in the world, in the consistent satisfaction of those who drive it. The idea built the company, and because the company is faithful to the idea, it is still growing.